Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden. It's been a while since I've uploaded a video here, and the reason for it is quite simple because we had the most glorious winter possible, had plenty of snow. It was winter wonderland. I haven't done a video about it here on YouTube, but I did a couple of short videos and reels that I've uploaded on my Instagram profile. So if you are intrigued and want to see how this garden looks during winter time, then just click on the link down below this video that guides you straight to my Instagram account, and I hope that you will enjoy those short motion videos about winter in my garden. But snow in winter seems to be a thing of the past, for at least at the moment it is. We still have frosty nights, but the days are filled with a lot of sunshine. It's clear blue skies, beautiful, so nothing holds me back from taking you with me into the garden. And what I want to do in today's video is I want to focus on all those jobs that you can do in your own garden during this time of the year, so jobs for the month of March. And how I want to structure today's video is that I want to give you a glance at multiple small jobs that you can do, and then I want to do some follow-up videos. So some of those jobs I really want to go deeper into detail, for example pruning. Today I'm just going to tell you that it's a good time of the year to get out there and start pruning your shrubs or your hardwoods, but then as follow-up videos I just want to specify what kind of things you can prune and how to prune it correctly. So I hope that you are excited to join me in my garden today again and really welcome spring in my garden together with me. Before I'm going to go into my garden shed, I just quickly want to show you how the garden looks at this time of the year. And especially I want to show you the beautiful weather, even though you're going to see it throughout the entire video, obviously. But isn't that fantastic? Clear blue skies. It really feels warm in the sun. Alfie's happy playing with her stick. Can you see? I'm going to give you a closer look at her in a second. And you can tell that on the left, still a lot of my winter structure is there. So really I have to get in there and start cutting back the ornamental grasses and perennials. But I was already busy in my island bed, so straight ahead of you, in between these two walnut trees, there is my island bed, and I already cleared that, so that is fantastic that I already had a start there. But what I want to show you as well is if I just swing around here, you get to see my shadow, yeah, and you can see that I'm filming with a selfie stick. There, cyclamen coum, aren't they fantastic? I really love them. I introduced them, I think 2 or 3 years ago into the garden, just to see and test it out, but clearly they love it. I think 2 years ago, now thinking about it. Love the color, really beautiful pink. They kind of fade away into a little bit more of a blush tone. But what's even better, that you see all these small leaves here in the back, they are the offspring. So they really love it that much that they set spread and they start to build a little nice drift here, which is really going to be fantastic at one point, because the single plant comes at a certain price tag, but it's definitely well worth it if they start to hibernate. So here is Alfie waiting for me to throw the stick for her, because the garden is full with wooden sticks. And now, hello, now that I'm cutting back everything in the borders, we find more and more sticks in the borders, right? Don't we? Yeah, I'm going to throw for you in a second, but I quickly want to show everybody these beauties here, snowdrops. Oh, I love them. Definitely this year I'm going to amp up my game big time because they just make you happy. Delicate little blooms. You really need to get in here and tip them over to see these beautiful, whoop, here we go, beautiful markings. Green and yellow stripes inside. They're really glowing. Just a tiny patch here, but is quite a wonderful patch because it's flanking the front of the island bed. I have a straight view of this from a kitchen window, which means that I really want to put more and more snowdrops here as a little drift in between those roses, because now that there's not a lot to look at, let's face it. I mean, everything is cleared. So really one of my missions is to bring more winter structure and interest to the garden. I've already ordered a couple of things which are on their way. So one of my future videos will also be like how to incorporate more interesting plants into the garden, but this is all going to come in the future. What I'm going to do first is quickly play for 5 minutes with Alfie, and then going to go to my garden shed, grab all of my tools, and then finally we get cracking. One of the first jobs that you might want to do at this time of the year is weeding, because some of those weeds unfortunately are hardy and they will make it through winter just as happy as all of your perennials and ornamental grasses hopefully did. But it is always quite easy to recognize the weeds now, because you can tell I'm surrounded by an ocean of all different shades of like brown and beige, and then suddenly there is something really nice, fresh and green, and that is always a good indicator that that is a perennial weed. So all I do is I'm going to have my little special tool here, so you can always get in deep to see first-handed, like, is it a weed that produces a big flashy taproot, because then you really want to get it. So what I do is just like get in here next to it, and it grows right next to my euphorbia. Whittle around a little bit and then grab it very close to where it comes out, and out it goes. That is just the perfect time to do it now, because if you do it now, then later on you don't have to do it. And then sometimes when you do it, you also see like some of your perennials that don't know the boundaries. For example, Aster astron. I love it so much, but you need to be aware that this really grows fast and very vivid and strong. So this is also a good time. You do your weeding, but at the same time you go through your borders and check how are all of your perennials are doing, and if there is any perennial that grows wildly, and if you might want to do a little bit of a size control. So this is the first thing I'm going to do. Just focus on getting as many weeds out as possible. And I'll play with you, right? Because you're already sitting here. There she goes. The second job of the season, and this is not really a big surprise, I suppose, as you can see in my bag, is cutting back. You really want to get into your borders and cut back all of those ornamental grasses and perennials to make sure that they get a lot of light and warmth so that they really can flash back really happily this year. So I'm sitting with you in parts of my front garden now, and pretty much everything but the hedges and the ornamental cherry tree has to be pruned back to the bare bones. So it really is quite a big job, and I'm going to make a separate video out of it, but still as a reminder what you should do at this time of the year. There are different kind of methods on how you can prune. Today I just quickly grab my secateurs, and I want to show you here with this beautiful drift of epimedium, one of my favorite in the front garden, because they are kind of evergreen. They are green throughout the most parts of winter, which is beautiful for an additional winter structure. The top leaves, when all kind of like crunchy and brown now, they were like rusty red, tints of yellow, really beautiful. But now is the perfect time to get in here and really cut everything back down to the ground, because it won't be long up until you will see all the beautiful flowers spikes appearing. But normally what I will do here, and I will show you in a separate video, is I'm not going to prune those with secateurs. The easiest way on how to do it is if you've got electric shears and something has to be pruned back really to the ground, if you just take your shears and just go over it once, collect everything, and off it goes. So I'm going to stop here for the moment, and then later on I will grab my shears and do it a little bit faster. But this is definitely one of the big jobs for the season. The third job that you can do at this time of the year in your garden is pruning. A lot of the shrubs and hardwoods in your garden, they really require a quite thorough pruning regime, some of which are wisteria or hydrangeas. And I'm just standing here at one of them. You also got a couple of shrubs that thrive best if you never touch them. So before you get in with your secateurs, the best thing you can do is just quickly do a little bit of a research if you're growing a shrub that responds well to pruning or it doesn't. But this is a hydrangea paniculata. I think it is limelight. I'm not 100% sure, because this is the first one that I've ever planted in this garden at a time where I didn't really care so much about what kind of variety I actually grow, but I exactly know how to prune it. Again, I will do a separate video on how to prune different types of hydrangeas, because with hydrangeas, you've got different groups pretty similar to clematis, and you really need to know what kind of group you're having and what you're growing in order to make sure that you'll be rewarded with a beautiful display of flowers next year. But this is a very easy job, and I'm going to explain to you in a separate video how I prune it and why I prune my paniculatas a little bit different to how it is to textbook, because different pruning regimes also require different kind of flowering on your plants. But one thing always applies is when you have strong and vigorous growth, this is what you want to promote. And if you have really spindly kind of small branches, those are the ones that you definitely want to remove entirely, because spindly small things never produce anything good. And another rule of thumb that you always want to follow is really go into your plant and inspect it and see, okay, is there any dead wood in there? Because you really want to make sure that all the dead wood comes out, because you don't want to encourage any kind of fungus to start getting into your plant. And you want to make sure that none of those branches are kind of like crisscrossing or rubbing on another. Especially the rubbing is bad, because again, when they're rubbing the bark, that means that on a rainy, especially rainy, moist summer day, fungus and disease can come into your plant. But I'm always on top of this here. So in general, it is a quite open, nice framework. Eventually, here is one branch, got very delicate, that I could just remove entirely, and this one here too, because they are no good. Since everything is mulched in my garden, sometimes I just leave the things lying on the ground because they just blend in really nice with the mulch. But this is definitely one of the good vital jobs that you want to focus on this time of the year. The next job that you can focus on in your garden is spend some time with your lawn. And yes, I do have plenty of lawn, but what I do is I'm not going to collect any leaves now. I just rake over the lawn. And the reason for it is quite simple, because the lawn has a lot of brown material in it and moss. And you want to make sure that all of the dead material and the moss comes out of your lawn so that a lot of air and sun can really get into those plants, and you want to make sure that they will grow back very happily and strong this year. The problem with lawn is, especially at this area where I'm outside the city of Gdansk at the south coast of the Baltic Sea. As you know, it's a zone 7B, but quite typical for winter can be very cold temperatures. This year we were fairly lucky, I have to say, and this is why the lawn in my back still looks really nice and green, I have to say, but last year was a different story. So what is typical is that we tend to have sometimes for a week or two very cold temperatures, -degrees, and that comes sometimes with clear blue skies. And the problem is that lawn, as an evergreen, it still loses moisture throughout the day. But when the ground is frozen, it can't take any more moisture from the soil. So it loses the moisture, but it can't get more moisture, and then it starts to bronze off. And this is why I always have some patches, especially where a lot of sun comes throughout the year or throughout winter, where the lawn looks a little crispy brown, kind of like after a very hot summer's day. So all I do now is really get in here, rake it over. It's very meditative. What you can do then later on, comes April or May, really depending on the temperatures, you can resow a little bit. Just mix some sand, some fresh garden compost with some seeds, mainly sand though, because it really gives more loftiness and air to your garden and to the lawn. And really sprinkle it over, trample it over, and then water it afterwards, so that those patches where you're really missing some lawn, they will be refilled with some lovely fresh seed. The last thing that you can do also is you can fertilize your lawn, which I sometimes occasionally do. I come in with an organic based fertilizer, just gently sprinkle it over. I always use something that breaks down quite easily, and what I always do is I buy those kind of fertilizers that don't do any harm to wildlife or nature, and especially that are good for dogs, because Alfie's always with me in the garden, clearly running over the lawn. So when it comes to fertilizing, I do it very moderate, and sometimes when I really fertilize the lawn, I might do it when I know that I'm leaving for at least 3-4 days and I'm expecting rain. So when I come back, that most of the fertilizer broke down and is already in the ground. But what I'm going to do now is, Alfie, are you in the frame too? I'm not quite sure, but what I'm going to do now is really work my way through here and get out as much dead material as possible. Another area that you want to focus on at this time of the year is your vegetable garden. And yes, I will do an entire video where I'll really talk you through and show you all those things that I'm going to do in this area here on how to make sure that I will have a wonderful, rich harvest. But what I already did is I started to prepare this area a little bit. So I've taken out all of the dead plants that was still in here from last year. So there was still some Swiss chard that was not good. The corn plants were in here, 2-3 fennels, one of the Brussels sprouts that I harvested, the onions that were really not growing well last year. So yeah, I just taken everything out, leveled things. I started to spread out these like wooden bars where I'm going to walk on evenly, and I think I might going to put a plank maybe in the middle. So I'm going to lay it out a little different compared to last year. I've already prepared some buckets with some natural fertilizer, but more to that in a future video. I'm going to focus on my raised beds there on the top, obviously. My trellis that I built with you last year still looks fantastic, so I'm definitely going to utilize that again. And not to mention, well, this entire brand new area where I'm expanding with my vegetable garden. So I already put a lot of the cuttings like from my perennial borders there to suppress any kind of weeds, because I want to put raised beds on top of that area. I will also introduce probably some fruiting shrubs here, because I'm not going to use this entire area only to grow pumpkins this year or in the long run, because I just had too many pumpkins at one point. It was pumpkin mania, and I think I'm kind of over it for a moment. I'm still going to grow pumpkins, but less. But all of those things are going to come in a separate video, just to mention that this is a good time of the year to spend at least a couple of hours in your vegetable garden. But don't forget about the most important job of this season, to really enjoy the beauty of the garden and really enjoy that spring is coming back soon. And days like these, it already feels like spring, especially if you look at some of those really beautiful, precious plants that you grow in your garden. Look at these hellebores. Aren't they fantastic? I grow 4 of these in pots, and they survived throughout the entire last year. They're clearly very happy. They're producing loads and loads of blooms. They're smothered with flower buds, so I'm really excited about that. What I'm going to do though is that after they span flowers, I'm going to give them a little good amount of fertilizer, because hellebores, they really require a good ample amount of fertilizer in order to keep on going. But beautiful. More of them are in the back there. I've got 4 containers here in front of my garden shed, but I think for now that's it. And I'm really going to enjoy the rest of the day, play a little bit with Alfie, and maybe just cut back a tiny bit, but really make sure that you enjoy the beauty of the season. You guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed working with me in the garden today. And obviously today was also a little bit of a sneak peek on all those videos that I want to share with you throughout the entire next couple of weeks. So I hope that you are excited to see those as well. So all I can say now is thank you so much for watching today's video. Thank you if you decide to subscribe to my channel, and also if you give me a thumbs up if you want to see more of my garden, then always just click on the link down below the video. This guides you straight to my Instagram account, and I can't wait to share more garden moments with you here on my YouTube account. So take care and see you soon. Bye.